Playing Batman Forever on the Super Nintendo, a game I have already discussed on my channel before, is like eating a piece of shit with chocolate chips mixed into it. Sure, it's not gonna taste good going down, but hey, at least it's got a few elements you love in it, right? Batman? How about gameplay stripped right out of Mortal Kombat 2, since the publisher Acclaim lazily recycled the same game engine they had used for the home console ports of Midway's legendary 2D fighter. Batman Forever, released on the SNES in 1995, is a pretty bad Batman game. It's not the worst I've played, but the combat in it just doesn't suit the style of platformer beat-em-up the game is aspiring to be. Enemies can take forever to defeat the farther you get into it. The game becomes so repetitive and physically tiring on the hands by the end that I wouldn't recommend playing it in its entirety in one sitting. That's what cheat codes are for. Contrary to what many may believe, it wasn't the only video game tie-in Batman Forever received, just the one that has gotten the most attention online over the years. There was another in 1996 for the arcade, which was later ported to the Sega Saturn and Sony's original PlayStation. Batman Forever, the arcade game, is an entirely different beast from its 16-bit counterpart. Unfortunately, it was still published by our friends at Acclaim, so don't get too excited. Batman Forever, the arcade game, is a side-scrolling beat-em-up that allows you to play as either Batman or Robin, and does offer a two-player cooperative mode. Robin's costume is much more screen accurate than the one found in the SNES game, but Batman's isn't. On the character selection screen he looks fine, but once the game begins, you'll notice he has a large yellow bat symbol on his chest. It looks more like one you'd see on an action figure, and I think the reason it was made so large was to help him stand out from a lot of the dark backgrounds and the enemies that have a similar color palette. The combat in Batman Forever is fairly satisfying with hard-hitting combos. Enemies will frequently fly towards the screen and slam into it. You can pick up various gadgets, like the taser, batarangs, and grapnel gun, which can be used against enemies. And before each stage, you get to select a modifier to use, like increased damage or having duplicates of yourself for a limited time, for example. Collect enough bat symbols dropped by enemies to fill the purple meter under your health to power up and make your attack stronger. Batman Forever is really flashy and can be quite fun, but the novelty of all the eye candy wears off rather quickly, and it just becomes mindless. I think its gameplay is more tolerable in the long run when compared to the 16-bit version of the game, but it's tedious and mind-numbing all the same. The biggest problem I have with it is the frequent, seizure-inducing screen flashes it uses, with a lot of its combos and special moves. I get that it's an arcade game first and foremost. It was doing this to lure the children towards it and take their quarters, but playing on home consoles gets really overwhelming in areas, putting you in sensory overload. Do yourself a favor. If you ever go to play this game, make sure you do it with the lights on, and even then, you'll probably still have a headache afterwards. There really isn't much of a story to speak of in Batman Forever. It loosely follows the events of the film, but its presentation knocks it down a few pegs compared to the SNES version. In that game, you get to see a map of Gotham that Batman is traversing, either in the Batmobile or Batboat, to his next destination, and read a bit of story text to fill you in on what's going on before each level. Here, it's just a flashy arcade brawler, where you go from one stage to the next. There isn't any real substance to it, connective tissue. The locations at least follow those from the film, though. You start out on the city streets, fighting your way on top of a building where the vault being carried by Two-Face's helicopter is repeatedly dropped on you. Batman crashes the party at the Ritz Gotham nightclub and chases Two-Face and his goons through the abandoned subway tunnels and into the villain's hideout, taking on his two henchwomen, Sugar and Spice. You battle the Neon Gang in the back alleys and face off with their leader, the one who was giving Dick Grayson issues in the film after he took the Batmobile out for a joyride. Never knew his name was Tassel, though. The Dark Knight then defends the Batcave from intruders, an army of criminals hired by Two-Face and the Riddler, with most of his equipment and gadgets badly damaged, and is confronted by the large monarch bat that was featured in a deleted scene cut from the film. Honestly, this is a really awesome inclusion on the part of the developers. And then you have a final climactic encounter with Two-Face, Riddler, and their henchmen in the control room on Claw Island that constantly spins and changes direction. It's a neat effect that disorients you while playing. Many of the levels in this game, especially the ones that take place on the streets of Gotham and in its subway tunnels, bleed together. While colorful at times, I don't think there is as much variety to them as the other Batman Forever game that I looked at. It doesn't even have a stage set at the circus, which is a shame. There are a few new enemy types, Two-Face's masked goons, Neon Gang members, and Riddler robots, but even they are not enough to prevent this game and its environments from becoming boring after a while. Two-Face and Riddler will pop up occasionally in a few of the levels, attacking you from the foreground or background, which is cool, but disappointingly, the only boss battle you have against them is against Two-Face in the control room at the end, after destroying the Riddler's brain device. That's it. Nigma can be seen in the background, standing on top of his throne platform in the center, but you never actually get your hands on him in the game. Batman never squared off against him in the movie either, but this is a video game. Let us live out that fantasy. Even the 16-bit version of Batman Forever let us, giving Riddler two forms even, a heavily muscled Big Riddle and then his regular-sized self, powered down to close off the game. Batman Forever, the arcade game, is just okay. It's got better graphics than its 16-bit version, and adapts a few more ideas not seen in that one, but I would consider the other game to be a more accurate representation of the live-action film, and dare I say, a bit more satisfying to play too. Don't get me wrong, my fingers bleed when I try to complete that one. It's unnecessarily long, and the recycled combat from Mortal Kombat 2 does not work within it, but at least it offers far more story context, a few more interesting boss battles, and has a level select you can access with cheat codes. I prefer the SNES version, though both Batman Forever games are not the most ideal to play from the Caped Crusaders video game library. Choose a bunch of others instead. I want to thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you found it entertaining or insightful in some way. If you'd like to support the channel and ensure the future of its content, you can do so by becoming a subscriber, hitting that bell icon for notifications, or by joining my Patreon for as little as $1 per month. I will see you all in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and always stay nerdy.